Hello, folks. How are you? How's your heart? I'm trying not to ask how are you these days. It seems like a pretty weird question. Well, I've never loved the question, but these days even harder. So, checking in. How is your heart? I hope it's doing all right. I think many of us have some heavy things going on at this point in time, so just know you're not alone. But that's not going to be the point of this particular sequence. I don't have you in person to ask these questions. We are going to go into a little bit of low back love, a little bit of opening of legs. I was just mentioning in the last video that I did, which will come out first, that 'tis the season for me. Like, I love fall hiking, getting more active in my legs, that kind of thing after all the heat. And so I love post running, post hiking, post whatever it is, stretching. And so this is going to be a slightly longer sequence than the last one and get us into a few more of the muscle groups. So that said, let's get started. Sit up nice and tall. Let's start here since we're here. Whatever version of sitting up is to you. You can see mine is kneeling. That's what is best for my body at this point in time. I don't know it'll always be that way, but it is today. But that doesn't have to be what's right for yours. Giving yourself permission, maybe sitting on a chair today if that's what feels good. Maybe laying on your back if you're like, oh no, I just can't join you there today, Crystal Joy. What do I know? Check in. I had asked at the beginning, how is your heart? If you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe take a moment and check in now. And don't judge what you find. If you're feeling angry, sad, contented, happy, all of these things, great. Invite them in, have them come in for some tea. Find out what they're all about and what messages they give us. I think as a society we lack emotional intelligence, and I think that's one of the cool things about yoga. We sit still enough times, we start to be able to come to those emotions and realize their messages and be able to garner messages and then use them in a wise way to become more authentic or find our higher selves, whatever words you want to put on that. With your next inhale, go ahead and open those eyes. And let's go ahead and start the physical practice from child's pose. So you can move any props off to the side. That said, you're welcome to use a blanket underneath your knees if that's what suits your body today. And as you come down, you can have your arms out in front of you or by your side. And firstly, I just want to target the low back with the breath. So the low back / down to the hips, right? So if you know where your sacrum and your low back connect, sacrum is that triangular shape bone of the pelvis. Lumbar spine, that L5 connects into it. Every inhale, try to expand that area. I even think of it going down to my buttocks bones and my pubic bone, and every exhale, just think of your hips softening towards your heels. And although I'm not saying it, I haven't said it, remember you can always leave the hips higher or put a blanket behind your knees. That often helps hip and knee issues, pain, discomfort in this pose. Maybe those hips do a little sway from side to side if your lower joints tell you that's okay. And then stabilize the hips, walk the arms out, straighten them out in front of you. You can go as wide as the mat since we're just starting and our shoulders might have some creakiness. Go ahead and lift your forehead. You're going to walk over to the right. And my hips stay still, but I reach my arms away over to the right. And as I do, pardon me, I start to activate that left side length. The length of the left side body might be a better way to say that. Coming back to center, I'm going to walk over to the left and I'm going to reach those arms forward at a diagonal, and then hopefully maybe I get that beautiful length in the right side body.
Anywhere you feel it is great, as long as it's not compression and pain. Coming back through center, one more time, right through center, push the palms and the finger pads down, forearms up, upper arms rotate, all the usual suspects. Take another breath from there, just feeling that length in the spine. And then go ahead and walk your hands on back. So we're going to start down with our feet and our ankles. Bring the knees into hip distance. If you're on a blanket, just be cautious. You'll notice my toes are off the end of my blanket, but my knees are padded. I'm going to curl my toes under, and then I'm going to start to sit back. I've got my heels, my knees, buttocks, bones distance, right? And I'm going to come back and sit down towards my heels. Now, you could leave the knees higher, you could put a blanket behind your knees, or you could simply stand up, right? And play with that lengthening going into the sole of the feet. Some of my friends, you're not feeling much. So we're going to start to sit up a little higher. And as we sit up, we're going to try to sit. I don't lift my buttocks. I would rather you potentially, check into it, be honest with it, be sincere. But I think you usually get more if you leave the hips low with the body a little forward than you do with the body up and your body off of the heels. So try to keep the buttocks low if that's true for you. And feel that stretching through the soles of the feet. If you have plantar fasciitis, this is not comfortable, but it would be a good thing to start to try to do on a regular basis. Rolling out the feet every day, right? And you're going to come off of the feet and then go ahead and uncurl your toes. Get the soles of the feet down, not the soles, the tops of the feet down. And the same thing, I'm going to bring my buttocks back as far as I can. And then maybe I start to sit up, but maybe I don't. Just like we did in the last video at the wall, try to make sure your ankle's not sickling, bowing out or bowing in. Try to keep them neutral by reaching your big toes back. Were I standing doing this, I could just be reaching my toes back and working my heel to the ground, right? Taking one more breath from there. And then go ahead and you're going to just pitter-patter those feet out a couple of times. And then you're going to take your right shin and you're going to cross it over your left shin. And I want you to come right where the gastrocnemius, your calf muscle, just where it starts to get just a little bit of meat on it. Yeah? And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to sit back on that contraption. And it's going to push. It's going to kind of squish down into that calf muscle. And you can just sit on it for a couple of minutes. I would suggest at least taking, 2 breaths in stillness and just letting the pressure be there. But, depending on your joints, don't hurt anything. But if it feels good to do a little rocking action, you can kind of rock as if you're going back and forth. What some people refer to as stripping the muscle, going the opposite of the grain. Come up, move that up to the big, meaty part of the calf and sit back down. So you'd obviously need for this sequence, this is going to be knee joint, knee flexion heavy. So this might not be the sequence for you if knee replacement surgeries, if you can't bend your knee very much, those kinds of things, yeah. You could put a ball back there and just sit back on the ball and work with it that way. Again, you might rock a little bit from right to left. Hoo-wee. And then you're going to come up and you're going to go one higher. Try to get it right up into the knee crease if it's available. I'm going to move my right knee out to the right just a little bit. And then I'm going to sit back down one more time. Take a couple of breaths with just the pressure and then maybe that rocking back and forth motion. And my right knee lifts a little bit when I'm up this high. As long as the knee joint's not in pain, all of that is okay. Release that. Come on to left ankle across, shin across. And again, I'm on the bottom part, just where the meat of it starts. And I'm going to sit back for a couple of breaths and just let that pressure come down. I might just do that simply. I might do a little rocking from right to left. And again, working across the grain of the muscle. When I think about muscles in that way, I think about wood. The grain of the wood moves one direction. Your calf moves up and down in this direction where my calf's straight behind me. So when I rock this way, I'm going against the grain. Come on up to the meaty part of the calf, pretty much right in the center of the thickest part. Come back down, hang out for a moment, feel the pressure. Maybe rock, maybe not. You can adjust the pressure, right? It doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, get out of there a little bit. How many times do I have to tell you? I love you. Come up to that last point.
I mean, I'll say it 5,000 times, and I really honestly believe I can't say it enough because I still find myself doing it at times, right? And I'm this many years in. If you are grinding into muscles or stretching them so hard that it doesn't feel safe, the muscles are going to grab on. They're not going to be receptive to what you're doing in the same way as if they don't have to protect themselves or freeze the muscle from doing motion, movement, stretching, lengthening.
Come on back through center. Release that out. And maybe one more time, just a little pitter patter. And then let's go ahead and we're going to go into a little, let's do cat-cow. We're going to start there because I want to kind of use the same motions in a little bit of a core situation, right? So inhale, shoulder blades down the back, chest forward. And exhale, pull that belly up. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. One more time. Inhale into cow. And exhale, cat. Go ahead and come on back to center. If you're on a boost, you might want to come off of that. We're going to come down onto our bellies. And first, just a couple of low cobras, right? So have your hands next to your side body. For this low cobra, they can be, fingertips underneath shoulders-ish. Press into the tops of the feet, the thighs lift, the tailbone moves down, the low belly pulls up, all the usual suspects. Nothing's changing there. But when you come up, we're going to come in and out a couple of times. A, keep the lower body on. B, don't press down into your hands. Come up only as high as you can without pushing into your hands, right? Keeping the low belly toned. And exhale down. Again, I'm going to keep my lower body turned on. And inhale, coming up as high as I can without pushing into my hands. Exhale, come on down. We're going to do that 2 more times. Inhale up. Are your big toes pointing straight back, or are you sickling your ankles again? Since we're in that land and we were talking about it earlier anyway. This time you're going to come up and you're going to stay up. I'm still not going to push down into my hands, but my hands are on a sticky mat. They get stuck. If I pull them back towards my foot side of the mat, I usually can get a little broader across my collarbone. Keeping my low back long is penultimate in this pose. Don't lose the low back length for it. It's not worth it. Take an inhale. And then you're going to come down and you're going to make crocodile, a version of crocodile. Let's stack the hands for this version. Bring the forehead down. Let the elbows go wide. Breathe into that low back. So now we're going to get a little bit into our deepest corset muscle, or what I often call the corset, right? And girdle, corset, whatever you want to call it, the transversus abdominis. So you're going to come into Sphinx pose, which is where my forearms are on the ground. And I'm making 90 degree angles. My elbow is directly underneath my shoulder, and my forearm moves straight out from that. Everything shoulder distance, right? You could have your elbows further forward if your low back hurts, but try this if your low back is getting, to get the low back length, push the feet down, thighs left, pull the belly up, pull the belly up. Now, I'm not off the ground with my belly, but that's the intention, right? I'm actively, energetically pulling up like I could pull my belly off of the floor. Now, this one goes something like this. We inhale and reach the chest forward, so this is a back bend, right? And then we exhale, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pull our belly up and look back towards our belly, and we're gonna leave our knees on the earth, but we're gonna pull up into cat. Think of it being like a cat. And then inhale, don't lose the low back length. Reach the chest forward, right? Keep that belly toned up, please. Exhale, pull the belly up, round the spine. Look back toward your knees or your belly button or whatever you want to look at. I don't care. Inhale, reach that chest forward. The thing I like about this exercise is you get into it pretty much right away, right? Exhale, I feel that area very well. I did this yesterday, actually. So I woke up this morning going, man, my abs are a little sore. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's from that exercise. So today, or do I do it? And then now my abs are like, oh, Jiminy Christmas. Go ahead and pull that belly up, and you're going to stay up this time. So you are rounding the spine. Sometimes I coach, don't round the spine. Be in a neutral, elongated spine. But right now, you are rounding. You are looking back at your belly. You are pushing down through your hands and your finger pads and your elbows. You're pushing down through your knees and the tops of the feet. Take an inhale. Oh, exhale. Come on down. Crocodile, alligator, with the other hand on top. And breathe. Makrasana. Soften the jaw, the tongue, the brow. Okay. So now from there, you're going to roll onto your right side body. And you can always do the other side and just reverse the directions. You're going to bend your knees. And then from here, we're going to do just a little bit of strength for our buttocks. We'll stretch it later. Clam shells, right? So I can put my fingers down on the ground. I can keep it up on my hip. I love keeping it on my hip to make sure that my hip A doesn't move up towards my shoulder, B doesn't move behind me. So go ahead and lift that left leg up. And I'm not mirroring, by the way. Come on down. So depending on which way you're facing, yada, yada, right? Don't worry about that. Just the top leg, whatever that is for you. For me, it's the left leg, because I'm laying on my right side body. And bring that down. So it's not about how high you go, right? Stabilize the pelvis. Keep the left hip stacked over the right hip. Keep that low belly, that transversus abdominis. Can that stay active through this? The one we just turned on a little bit ago, is that available to you? And then leave the leg up. Don't go to your highest height. Again, right here, hopefully we're starting to feel some activity in that buttocks. And now what I call pulsing, most of you are used to it at this point in time. I don't move up high, but I'm going to move up on 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm going to bring that down. Now I'm going to straighten my bottom leg all the way out, my right leg. I'm going to put my left foot in front of that right leg with my toes pointing down towards the bottom of the mat, foot side of the mat. From there, I'm going to lengthen my inner groin by hugging that same buttocks muscle we just used in and forward. I can think of it trying to move through the front of my hip and open up and broaden through that inner groin. I can use my fingers on the earth. I don't have to. I like to flex my bottom foot and let the pinky edge kind of push down as a stabilizing factor. I'm going to use my transversus abdominis here, my corset, and I'm going to breathe. And then one more thing while we're here on our side, go ahead and bend, move that left foot, bend that right leg again, bring the left knee in, grab the shin, ankle, and go ahead and reach that right knee down, left knee. Pull your left frontal hip point up, so it's that opposing directions. Things that often happen here that not unsafe, but if you do them over and over again and you end up with a pattern, it could be, right? The knee likes to be high. Can you bring the knee to the height of the buttocks? Can you roll your inner groin back behind you so it's participating as much as the outer groin? Super vague language, I know, but hopefully that makes sense. This I call the outer groin, this I call the inner groin. And then breathing from that place. Because otherwise to say abductors and adductors and expect you to know which one's which and be able to hear the pronunciation since there's only a letter difference. Go ahead and take one more breath and release that. So we're going to go to the other side. You can simply roll over. I'm going to turn my whole body so you can see me a little bit better. So first we're going to do a little strengthening in the buttocks. Yeah? So from there, let me move my mic pack real quick. So from there, my knees are bent, right? And I keep my toes together. I can use my hand on my hip if balance is not an issue. I push my hip to the bottom of my mat, and I don't let my hip move back at all, right? And I'm going to lift my right knee, and I'm going to bring that down. Tone your transversus abdominis. Get as long there as you can, or as a tone there without being compressive and like, and bringing that down. Don't worry about, I got to get really high. The higher I get, the better I am, the more perfect I am, right? Let go of that ego base and stay up this time and keeping that hip nice and neutral, not changing anything there or here, right? I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pulse up on 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and bring that knee back down. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into that. It's a variation kind of tree pose on your side body. I just get that right foot out of the way so I can straighten my left leg. And then I put my right foot in front of that thigh. I like to flex my left foot like I'm standing on it. And then I turn my toes to the bottom side of the mat, my foot side. And then again, it's this interesting thing. The more I hug my glutes in, the more I lengthen my inner groin. That's the protagonist-antagonist relationship, right? I hug that glute in like it's going to come through the front of the hip. And in doing so, I lengthen my inner right groin through my inner right knee. And I get as long as I can through that inner groin. And I breathe. And it's also obviously a glute strengthener, which I like. It's subtle, but it's effective, right? And then go ahead and release that. You're going to bend the bottom knee for stability. You're going to bring the top knee, the right knee in, grab the ankle, and then reach that knee down. Again, what often happens is the knee comes up or goes wide. Try to keep the thigh bone in that parallel to the ground position, knee the height of the buttocks bone or the hip joint, right? And also that inner groin, right inner groin rotating back just as much as the outer groin, which for most of us is not our pattern. We have to ask it to participate. I move my knee down as I pull my frontal hip point up. I give you 20 different things, not because of perfection. We've talked about this before, but I always bring it up. It's not you're going to do it perfectly, right? It's different little bits and pieces your mind can focus on to stay here in your body and present. You start to build mental maps to different areas of your body, literally what fires together, wires together, right? That's from neurology. So if we keep going down to our knee, our hip point, are these various places, this particular muscle, my inner groin, you start to build a relationship with that area between the brain and those muscles. Go ahead and release that and let that go, which I think is a really big piece of the key to the health of the body. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to push into that hand, and you're going to come on up and come back into hands and knees. Feel free to pad the knees. We're going to do one little lunge series here. And then we'll move towards, we've got about 2 more moves basically in this series, right? So from there, I'm going to use my blocks. I'm going to step my right foot forward. You could always go wide and walk it over. I'm going to move my hips a little forward and in. And then I move my hips a little bit back and straighten my right leg, maybe flexing my right foot. And one more time, forward, down, and in, saying hi to the hip flexor. And back, saying hi to the right hamstrings. And coming forward, taking an extra about 3 breaths to work it. We'll move the hips forward and down. But again, that toning, I love toning while we stretch, so we're not just pulling and yanking at joints and ligaments and tendons, right? I'm going to pull my right thigh back, my left thigh forward, and find that scissor action, right? So turn on that pelvic floor. I'm going to imagine there are blocks inside both of my thighs, and as I push into those blocks, that's going to hopefully stabilize and help turn on my pelvic floor and my transversus abdominis. And then I might bring the hands onto the thighs, or I might reach my arms up. They're both on the table. Take 2 breaths. Inhale, feel that left psoas. The more my left knee moves down and left hip point pulls up, I might find that. Can you keep everything else I said so far? Bring the hands down. That becomes an interesting game, right? Step that. Don't step the right foot back. Sorry. Move your left hip over your left knee, flex the right foot. I like to move my heel a little forward so I can lengthen my leg. I'm going to pull my kneecap up first so that I activate the knee joint, and then I'm going to push that right heel forward, keeping my kneecap up so that I feel my hamstrings without compromising my knee joint. I don't like to pull my pinky toe edge back. Not that I don't. It won't do it if I don't ask it to, so I'm going to pull my pinky toe back. I'm sorry. Try not to cough into the mic. And as I pull my pinky toe back, I don't know about all y'all, but I'm deeply in my hamstrings right now. And I don't have to be full. I mean, I can come down. I can get my forehead almost to my shin. I'm not getting deeper in my hamstring when I do that, right? It comes from last video. If you watched it, if you didn't, it's a sweet little video. I love it. Against the wall. Remember when we reached our buttocks bones up the wall and then we caught them against the wall as we started to let our heels come down? Same concept here, right? I move my buttocks bones back, and as they move back, they're literally, my hamstrings are connected to it. They're literally lengthening my hamstrings. And step that right foot back. Left foot forward. And moving in and out of the lunge. We move our hips forward and down just to start to wake up the hippies. Moving back, maybe straightening the leg a little bit, maybe flexing the foot. Depends on your hamstrings. And inhale. And exhale. If you're doing the other way with the breath, that's okay too. There's no right or wrong here. Go ahead and move forward, ankle under knee-ish. I just realized it was way back, very hard for the knee joint. I'm going to move it forward for the architecture and stability. Before I come up, I'm going to find toning. I'm going to move my right thigh forward and my left thigh back like scissors. I'm going to move my thighs into imaginary blocks and tone my abdomen. And then I'm going to either stay here, hands on thighs, or reaching my arms up.
Keep all of that. Don't lose any of that if you can, best you can. I'm going to pull my right hip point up and my right knee moves down, and there's that beautiful length to stretch your iliopsoas, your hip flexor. Its main job in the body is to lift these super heavy, beautiful legs. Yeah, it's a big job. Every time you sit, it's contracted. If you're sitting a lot, holy crap, it gets really tight. It can cause low back issues. Cause other issues too, but definitely low back. Bring the hands down. Walk your right hip over your right knee. I like to push my left heel a little forward and flex my foot into runner's lunge. And then from there, as I push my heel forward, again, this part I think is one of the big key parts for hamstrings. I'm going to imagine that someone's got my buttocks bone. You don't have to, if you're like, no, just reach it back. That's what I said last time. But if it helps you to imagine, and you might even put your hand on your buttocks bone, it is your body. Get to know it. And the more I touch it, the more my mind is like, oh, buttocks bone, oh, buttocks bone, oh, buttocks bone. As I move that back, right, like I'm pulling it back, since my hamstring connects there, it literally pulls the hamstring long. I keep my foot flexed, I pull my pinky toe back. Oh, I forgot to say, you can bend the knee a little bit and tone that quadricep up, right? Pull the kneecap up is another way to say it. If I say tone your quadricep, that's really hard to do. If I say pull your kneecap up and you try to make that action happen, it automatically happens. That's why we teachers often say, pull your kneecaps up, pull your kneecaps up. There's a method to our madness. And breathing. Some teachers, unfortunately, don't know why they say it, but hey, what do? Go ahead and reach the chest forward and bring that foot all the way back. And we got one more move on this journey. Some of my friends, I'm going to talk you into a version of pigeon. I don't teach pigeon very often because coming in from this way with the weight of the body and gravity, for many of us, I think it can do a lot of damage to the knee. So know that you can go onto your back and do thread the needle. You'll get the same work without the dangerousness of hurting your knee, right? So please listen to the body. Otherwise, you're going to step your right foot out wide. I have my right block in a little bit, but the right foot is a little wider on my mat, right? And then from there, to stabilize, I'm going to move my right block outside. Now I'm going to start to walk my right foot over towards the left side of the mat. And right now I still have all of my weight in my blocks. Yeah? And even if you can get your hands down to the ground, go there with me for now and I'll get you there, I promise, right? So you remember that action where I move my right thigh back and my left hip forward and I tone my pelvic floor up? I'm going to do that same thing here. And then I'm going to see about starting to lower my body down and maybe my right shin starts to come down to the ground. I can move those blocks a little forward. They're a little awkward to begin with, right? I come down to forearms on medium and me. And if it's like, holy crap, you can move that heel closer to the hip. And if I move that back, that takes away some of the intensity. But keep the toning, right? Keep the A, right foot flex, that's your knee protection. B, the right thigh moving back, left thigh moving forward. Keep the toning here even as you release down. We get really used to just like releasing out. And that's where joints become more vulnerable when you're moving into stretches, right? So I'm going to come out a little bit so I can move my shin back up a little bit. I keep that foot flexed. Foot flexed, foot flexed, foot flexed. If you couldn't tell, that's a pretty important thing to me here. And then from there, one more thing. If I push my left foot down and I let that left thigh activate, I tone my low belly up and I reach my chest forward. So we're not going to come all the way down into a forward fold today. We're going to keep a little bit more of kind of that upper back bend quality that we had when we were on our belly doing low cobras, right? So again, I reach my chest forward, I traction my elbows back, I keep my belly toned in. I could go over the list again, right thigh back, left thigh forward, pelvic floor up, right? I keep my right foot flexed, right? So there's a lot going on. What can you track? And if you go to one thing and you lose the other, it's okay. Try to keep as many of those things going at the same time. Can you communicate with more than one part of your body? Right? And again, I'm just bringing this stuff up. I think that's how we advance our practice. We can hold more concentration and awareness. We can start to have a different relationship and actually feel and sense our body on a deep level. Hands on blocks. I'm going to move my blocks out to the side. I'm going to move my hips back, and I'm going to step my right foot back. I didn't show thread the needle, or eye of the needle, sometimes called, but hopefully that one makes sense to you,
right? So again, I'm going to move my block in to start, and I'm just going to start with my left foot a little wider, just a little easier to get forward, and it'll kind of set where your knee ends up coming down-ish. Now I'm going to move my left block outside so I have the stability. I'm going to start to walk my left foot over towards the right edge of my mat, my shin parallel to the front edge of my mat as I start to lay my leg down. Before I lay my whole body down, I want some toning actions here, right? In my body, I hope you join me. Pull your left thigh back, your right thigh forward. Notice how that stabilizes the hips. Tone the low belly up, your transversus abdominis. Bring the blocks forward. Maybe the arms come down, forearms, right? Flex the left foot, flex the left foot, flex the left foot, flex the left foot. Left heel might move back towards the foot side of your mat to make this a little easier on the joint or the muscles of the outside of the left leg. Reach the chest forward. So again, imagine that you're in low cobra. Press your right foot down, right thigh lifts, tone the belly, move the tailbone down, shoulder blades down the back, reach the chest forward, and hopefully you're doing everything else I already said before this point in time. And can you release your jaw and your eyes and your forehead and your tongue and your shoulders? Do the best you can. It's about precision. It is not about perfectionism. Right? There is no such thing as a final pose. Perfect means there's an end point. There is no end point to this practice, ever. Moving the hands on the blocks, bringing the body up, bringing the hips back, releasing the left leg back. Child's pose. Any version that feels right for you. If you want to add a little bit of rocking or movement, you can. You can also come to stillness. Depending on your joints, this may or may not be available. Hands under shoulders, bring the knees together. And try to just sit up from here. Sit on a block if that's not available to you. If you want to do true hero's pose, Virasana, and let the heels separate and sit between, you're welcome to. Right? I'm going to stay right through center. Close your eyes. Check in. Again, for sincerity as well, right? Sometimes we can convince ourselves of things that aren't necessarily very true. So check into your heart, where you are emotionally. And you might be in the exact same place, and there's no judgment on that. Whatever that place was is where you are supposed to be. There's a message that you're trying to receive. But maybe things have shifted with this practice. Maybe as we build intelligence of our physical body, we start to build emotional intelligence, mental intelligence, right? All of those other pieces linking together. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. Inhale. Exhale, bow your head into your heart, taking a moment of gratitude. Namaste, friends. One final challenge if you want it. You don't have to take me up on it. And if you want to stay here for a little bit, please stay here for a little bit. Curl your toes under. Have your feet a little wider if you need to, hip distance if it's available. And start to rock yourself back into a squat, trying to bring the heels towards the earth. You could put a blanket under them, keeping the butt off the ground. I like to separate my knees and reach my arms forward and round into a little ball, right? And then I'm going to push my heels down and tone my belly up to come all the way up to standing. Good day, eh? May you be well.